The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
Answer Legal has been absolutely beneficial to my practice. Not only do they answer the phone 24 hours a day with a live receptionist, they qualify prospective clients that are calling in to get information, providing the benefits of a dedicated receptionist at a fraction of the cost, as well as reinforces our commitment to responsiveness and care. We've been using Answering Legal for a few years now, and I highly recommend Answering Legal to any large size or even small boutique law firm such as mine.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Earley Show, sponsored by friends over at Answering Legal. I'm your host, Chris Earley, a personal injury attorney in Massachusetts. And by the way, if you have not already done so, please be sure to pick up my memoir, Scaling the Wall, on Amazon. All right, today we have a real treat. You know I don't mess around. The people that I bring on the show are legit and doing big things. And our guest today is that kind of guy. So we have Nick Mendez on the show today, North Carolina personal injury attorney. Coming in hot, he's doing a lot of things, he and his firm, and so super impressed by his growth. And I know he's a book reader, he's a learner. He's always improving himself and his skill set. So we're going to learn a lot. So as always, make sure you sharpen those pencils. I'm sure we'll have plenty of writer downers on the show today. So Nick, thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Chris. Thanks for that nice entry for me.
Yeah, I think you're a humble dude, but
yeah, we're excited.
There's a lot you can. Well, thank you. I'm excited to learn from you and the audience as well. Just going to get a lot from this. So I spent some time with you, and got to know your story and what's, happening, right? But for those who don't know, can you sort of take us back? I always like to talk about, the start, because that kind of influences a lot about our lives. You talked briefly about, growing up, influences on you that really kind of, resonated with you at a young age.
Yeah, well, I'm still pretty young, in my journey as a lawyer. I've been practicing now for 7 years, so I still got a lot to learn. Growing up, I grew up here in North Carolina in Greensboro. I was actually born though in Puerto Rico. My father has been a major influence, both my mother and my father. He is Cuban, so he was born in Cuba in the 50s, and they left when Fidel Castro took over, and they fled. Him and his mom, my grandfather, ended up staying back and was a political prisoner for 20 years.
Holy smokes.
He fought against the communists. But he, my dad, my aunt, and my grandmother moved to Florida, where a lot of the Cubans went. And at the time, nobody in Florida spoke Spanish, which is kind of hard to imagine nowadays. Wow. If anyone has been to Miami or anywhere in Southern Florida. But they were there for a short period of time, and then they went to Puerto Rico, as we all know, part of the U.S., so they could go there. Everyone spoke Spanish in Puerto Rico. So my dad grew up, poor in Puerto Rico with his grandmother. When they lived in Cuba, they were very affluent, but they had everything taken away from them.
God,
it's a pretty remarkable story. He went to Cuba, he went to Puerto Rico, and then my mother, she's Canadian. So she was on vacation in Puerto Rico in the 80s, met my dad, they got married. They had me, and I lived there for a few years. And then my dad's job took him to Summerfield, North Carolina. So a lot different than San Juan. So we lived in right outside a small town outside of Greensboro. And that's where I grew up. I had a very blessed and privileged. I had a wonderful childhood. My dad was an entrepreneur, a businessman, kind of pulled himself up by the bootstraps, was very successful in his career and taught me a lot. So I've learned a lot from my dad on the business side. He's taught me a lot, and just, growing up in a household where he was very engaged and had a job where he had a lot of responsibilities. He was sharing a lot of that with me as a kid because I expressed interest in it as a child. I've always been fascinated with business principles, concepts, business numbers, all those things. And he shared that with me as a kid and cultivated it with me.
Cool.
So I learned a lot from him, a lot about people. My mother was, she didn't work, but she was obviously a huge influence as me and well. She was she's an amazing with people, very warm, kind. My dad is too, but he's a little more businessman, so was a good balance, I think, growing up to see the two. It's weird at that age in my 30s now where you can kind of you're old enough to where you see your parents as more of an adult and not as, when you're a little child and your parents can do no wrong, and you start seeing the different parts of you in each of your parents.
Right.
And how you've blended those. So I'd say, the two of them have been major influences, and I had a couple of teachers along the way that kind of pushed me towards political science and history. I don't think any of us went to law school because we were good at math. I like numbers. I like simple numbers, but not a math guy at all. So I had some teachers that I was fortunate to have that kind of pushed me in the right direction. Social studies, history, political science, which inevitably led to law school. So I went to law school right out of college. Went to UNC here in North Carolina, and then I went up to Richmond Law in Virginia.
I love that story.
Formative years.
I love that story. I love everything. I love the story of your dad, the story of your parents meeting. I'm sorry if you already said, but what did Dad do for work?
So in Puerto Rico, he had so back up a little bit. My grandmother started out cleaning hotel rooms in a hotel in San Juan, and she ended up becoming the manager of this resort in San Juan in like the 70s and 80s, which was a wild time there. You can imagine who owned the resorts and casinos at the time.
Yes.
So my dad actually lived at this hotel with his kind of like that show. I don't know if you remember that, if you've ever seen that show, Zack and Cody, where it was a show where these two kids live in a hotel and they're getting into all kinds of stuff. But he lived in this hotel, and he started a business when he was young, selling, because he knew all the hotels because he lived there, and his mom was a manager of one, and he worked in the hotel industry. He started a business selling the shampoos and soaps, like the hand soap, to the different hotels. He saw a need for that. And at the time, Puerto Rico had no income tax. So you had a lot of U.S. manufacturers going there to manufacture products, specifically chemicals, pharmaceuticals, all those things. So he started a business selling soap to the hotels. And then there was a company in Greensboro that wanted to get in on the action in Puerto Rico because there's no income tax and move a manufacturing facility there. So he partnered up with these people in Greensboro. They had a business called K Chemical, which sold hand soap to fast food restaurants. So he partnered with them, and then that company got bought by a big company called Ecolab, based out of Minneapolis. And he got kind of absorbed into the web at Ecolab and just rose through the ranks there at Ecolab for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really great, cool story.
Well, I'm hearing a lot. Just to unpack it, that's why I ask you about the start, because you learn so much. We are products of our environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are sort of stamped with a lot of stuff from our parents. And so what I'm hearing is you're a client service kind of guy. We're going to talk about Chick-fil-A in a little while, right? You're really focused on the client. I can see how you got that from your dad. Your dad was in hospitality for a while.
And my mother was too. She worked for
your mom too. No wonder you're so sensitive to the experience that you provide.
Yeah, it's very true. I really thought about that, but that's definitely true.
It's critical, right? And then the entrepreneurial bug he gave to you, and he developed that within you. I got a question. When you started your practice, was your dad against it? Did he feel like it was too scary, or was he fully on board?
Oh, very much on board.
Okay.
Yeah, very supportive of the decision.
Awesome.
And we had some family friend. We have a great family friend of my parents, who's been a mentor for me. And she is a plaintiff's lawyer in Florida, who's been very, very successful.
Yeah.
And so we've all seen what she's done. So he saw, what she was up to.
He's like, okay,
how well she was doing. And he always kind of guided me to becoming a lawyer too. I guess you just, as a parent, you got to be careful pushing your kids into something. He didn't push me too hard into it, but kind of moved me in that direction.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I appreciate the fact that I really love the business side of it. I'm not really, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not as into the technical legal piece of it. So to balance the two, it was, I think as a parent, he realized this is what my son needs to do, to get both.
All right. So then if I'm not mistaken, you got out of law school, you started doing insurance defense. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So, okay. I was hired by an insurance defense firm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who had an office in Wilmington, and worked there for 3 years. And met my law partner there. He'd been there for 6 when we left.
That's Devlin Horton, right?
Yep, Devlin. Yep.
I've met him. Good guy.
Oh
and
yeah,
so,
great guy.
And so you guys joined forces, right? And you started your firm. What year did you guys start the firm?
2020.
Okay, in the pandemic, right?
Yeah, right in the midst of the pandemic, which was actually a wonderful time to start a law firm, especially if you're working in another law firm, because we were all at home. So we were able to just plot, we created a whole business plan, down to all the little details at the time that we thought were important. It gave us a roadmap, something to work off of. We did that for about 6 months before we let our employer know that we were leaving. So it was nice.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it was during the pandemic where I decided to scale, because I saw opportunity. And I would encourage the listener, when people are running and scared, that's sometimes a good time to lean in and take some risks that other people you don't have the chops to take. So it sounds like you were leaning into a bigger vision you had, doing something on your own. So could you talk about, you and Devlin joined forces. What I think is interesting, you just talked about this, your focus on the business. Devlin, and stop me if I have this wrong, Devlin is the trial lawyer, right?
Correct.
And so I love the duo, right? The duality there, because that's synergy right there. That's strong, because you're passionate, he's passionate. I think it's fantastic. Now, you guys, start the practice. You've had some really massive results. Could you guys just, before we get into that, because I think it's very instructive, you guys are definitely ringing the bell, getting great results for your clients. It's fantastic. Could you talk about when you started the practice, right? Who would you hire first? How are you getting cases? How are you, hustling to get your name out there initially?
Yeah. So when we started, we were defense lawyers, so we couldn't bring any work with us. So we started with a completely clean slate, which in some ways is kind of nice, because we didn't have to deal with any drama with a prior firm or anything like that. And we were super, super hungry to get work, so we didn't have any work. So Devlin was doing some criminal court appointed work at the time, thinking that it would bring in a little bit of revenue and maybe we get some referrals on some PI cases from the criminal cases. So he did that for about a year, got him in the courtroom, kept him sharp. And then, the initial campaign was really just lunches with other attorneys in the area. We had a pretty good network of attorneys since we had been practicing in the region for, collectively 9 years between the two of us. And we pretty much know everybody. It's a smaller bar here. So we took all the family law lawyers we knew out to lunch, all the estate planning lawyers we knew out to lunch, the criminal guys that Devlin would become friends with through his court-appointed work he was doing at the time. And we got a lot of referrals from them. I'd say every time we took someone to lunch, we get a call within a month or two with something, at the time that we would take. Probably cases now that we wouldn't take, but at the time we would take them if we thought we could do something with them.
Sure.
That was the first step. And then from there, we realized, we needed to get on Google and we needed to advertise there. So we had some friends who were working with, SEO firms. When I remember the first time we went out to lunch with this guy who told us about SEO, and I just remember being like, what in the world is all this stuff?
Yeah.
And he managed a cannabis SEO website that linked people with doctors that could prescribe them cannabis. And he was describing this web, and I'm like, okay, this guy's full of it, But it, obviously SEO is a real thing. So I started researching and learning about that, and then we're fortunate to get connected with a great vendor who we've been with ever since. And I remember making that first investment. I think it was a couple $1,000s a month that we were going to spend on SEO. And they're telling us, yeah, you probably aren't going to really see anything from this until 6 to 9 months from now. But we looked at it as this is the long-term play for us to consistently generate some work. And that really paid off for us. We got into the map pack and we did a good job, combine that with doing a really good job for the clients. So they'd leave us good Google reviews. And that led to a little more consistent flow out the gate for us. And we also started out right when local service ads were being introduced, and we signed up for those, really before I think anybody else did, because I think most of the legacy firms were still had their chips in PPC largely. so we were fortunate there to get in on the LSAs early, and we generated quite a bit of cases off those early on and some good fees. And then we were able to just continue to invest and then open additional channels like TV. I remember the first one of the TV reps called us, and we're like, oh wow, they want us to be on TV because they think we're so great. We were just naive, as a sales rep. And we did these like painfully bad ads as I watch them now. Yeah, I think we were spending like maybe $2,500 a month on TV ads, which was not a good decision at the time, but we thought it was a good idea. So the point of that being, we experimented with different channels until we could really like learn how to use them effectively.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
So I hear, grassroots, rolling up your sleeves, hustling, doing lunches, then migrating, getting sophisticated with your knowledge with digital, getting onto broadcast with TV. Could you talk, because I'm a grassroots nerd at heart, could you talk about how you guys approach lunches with lawyers? Because like, Nick, lawyers don't do this enough. Like I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Absolutely.
Did you guys do it together? You guys went to lunch together with lawyers, or you guys did it like
we did? We found that we were more effective with them together. Because Devlin can talk about, the cases he has and the trial he just did. And then I can talk to them more about the business and, what we're working on with the firm. And, it was just a nice little compliment, I think, in our personalities. It just having two of us, like we were more comfortable, I think, going out to lunch with like people we didn't know. Because that can be a little awkward. Like, let's face it, like it can be a little weird, but if you like have a buddy with you.
Now that you say it like that, it is kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. You feel a little weird at first, like a little uncomfortable, and then, but you got to get over that. But like having a friend, having your friend, I mean, Devin was my best friends, like having him there made it just more fun, I guess, and a little less awkward.
How did you, sorry, you had connections already, but like, were these just cold people? You didn't even know them. They didn't know you, or did you have some kind of relationship?
Yeah, like the family, like we knew all the defense lawyers, and we knew all the plaintiffs lawyers. We're not going to go to lunch with plaintiffs lawyers in our area, really.
Sure.
I mean, some of them we would, but not most of them. Right. But it was a lot of like people that knew other people, that kind of thing. Or we would meet somebody at like a networking event or something. Like say we were at the New Hanover County Bar Association event, and then, hey, let's go have lunch, sometime, or things like that. Devlin would be talking to the people over at the courthouse, the criminal guys at the courthouse, because they're all kind of chummy with each other, and and then, hey, let's go grab, meet my partner, let's go grab lunch sometime and hang out, stuff like that.
I like that. What I did, going back to the pandemic, because that's when this was the genesis of your law firm, when you started with a clean slate, which I think was really cool. Well, I was re-engineering my slate in the pandemic. What I would do, Nick, my case counts were down. So it's like sitting at home, like, what am I going to do? So when I started to get back to Boston, going into the city, and I would call lawyers like out of the blue. And I'd say, hey, Nick, like, you don't know me. I don't know you. I just would like to reach out. Do you want to talk to you? Do you want to have coffee or lunch? I'd say 99% were like, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't care. Like, because like I get a family, I get cases, I got to feed my family. So it's like, you do what you got to do. Yeah. But I encourage the practitioner until I blew in the face. You have to do what myself and Nick were doing, right? Is like getting after it, creating opportunities, being a nice guy, giving value, and being upfront. Hey, I love your business. I didn't do that for a long time. I would just like have lunch with people, but now it's more like, all right, we've talked, for 30 minutes. Hey, Nick, by the way, I'd love, to start working with you. Yeah. What kinds of cases to handle. So, I would knock on, I've said this on this podcast, Nick, I would knock on doors in the pandemic. Those relationships have spawned incredible relationships. So you got to get out, literally get out.
You do. I agree. I mean, especially if you don't have a big marketing budget. I mean, you got to eat, you got to eat. So Never Eat Alone. That's a great book for folks.
Yeah, it's a very good book. Recommended that to me was John Morgan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a wonderful book.
And I read that sucker. Everyone should buy on Amazon today. Never Eat Alone. Great idea, Nick.
Agreed.
That's a good one because that shifts your whole networking approach. That was a good one. All right. So you guys are getting after it. You're putting your toe into TV. You're realizing, I'm assuming you at some point increased, the marketing investments. Now you guys got a couple jury hits, right? So how, I'm really interested out of the gate to get those kind of results. Like, what did you guys do right that generate those cases and that got those case results for your deserving clients?
Yeah, I mean, the two really big cases that we've had that we've won, the one was a jury trial, the other one we resolved. They came in through personal referrals.
Oh yeah.
So they were all personal referrals from friends, not even from lawyers, just from friends.
Fantastic.
So we were very fortunate, that we knew those people and they, referred those individuals to our firm. And then, to get the results, for one thing, I will say to everybody, I think as a bar, as a national plaintiffs bar, we need to try more cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, especially with the, on all different fronts, one front being, I think consolidation is coming in plaintiffs firms. And I think, the one way for us to really have a great ticket for ourselves is to be trial lawyers and have trial firms. I think that's going to be huge. Also, having worked for the insurance carriers, they don't pay well at all. And defense lawyers don't really like the work very much. You're getting bossed around by these adjusters and you don't even know. And they cut all your bills. People are fleeing that industry, the insurance defense industry, at least here in my area.
Yeah. Okay.
And the quality of the defense lawyers is just kind of, I think, slowly going to decline because talented people aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
So as a plaintiffs bar, if we're all kick-ass trial lawyers, we're going to be able to just mop the floor with these insurance companies over the years is what I think. That's my theory. So
That's
I think
fair.
Devlin loves to try cases, and we encourage our lawyers to try cases. We don't set like a limit, like you have to try a case every year. We don't want to arbitrarily try a case just because we have to, but we love to go try cases. We tried 3 cases last year. Hopefully we'll try a couple this year. And I think that has started to attract more larger claims for us now. Like we have quite a few now that we're working on. And it's because we try them. And other lawyers know that. I don't have to get into like all the great things about trying cases like the
Sure.
insurance pay more. Everybody knows that.
Sure.
That's helped us get more big claims.
Yeah.
And then how do we get the results? We've really focused on the workup, the workup of the case.
Yeah.
We file them as soon as we can, as soon as it makes sense to file them, we get them filed. And we're just really aggressive. We have a framework in litigation. It's called ACE. So we want to be accurate. And this is across the staff for the staff and everybody. We want to be accurate. We want to be consistent, and we want to be efficient in our case management.
So talk about that a lot. Do you preach that a lot? So it
yes,
sinks in?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. So within that framework, like we don't want to have any dead time in our case, right? Like we're really, really relentless about getting rid of dead time. Like a case should never sit in the complaint to be done phase for more than 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is it in there for 40 days? Some of these firms, why, the defendant has sent us our discovery responses back and we've completed written discovery. A deposition needs to get notice of our client. We need to be heckling the defense lawyer. Depose my client. You're going to depose my client? When are we going to move? Because that's kind of a milestone. And then that mediation needs to be set. So that's really helped us. We're always pushing the case in the workup, and we're pretty, we're very aggressive about hiring experts. So we are always looking for the best experts that we can if the case warrants it. I view the expert as an investment in the case.
Yep.
But is that expert going to have a return on investment in the case, right? Like we don't want to just hire experts just to hire experts because it makes us feel like we're fancy lawyers. We want to hire experts that are going to really add value to the case. And we're not afraid to invest in the case. That's another thing too. And that shows the carriers that we're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
You got to invest in your cases. You owe it to your client. You got to find the best experts that you can. So we're big on the experts. We use focus groups. A business called legalfocusgroup.com. We use them for our focus groups, and they're able to get people in our community on a Zoom call. So we use those. We have a rule, like we'll have our number, and we're not going to go any less than that. And we found that when we just kind of draw that line, we either try the case or they'll pay it.
Right.
And we just kind of seen it. And we found too, if we are prepared to go to trial, we're prepared.
Yeah.
A month before the trial date, they're going to come begging us to settle half the time. But but they're going to see what they can get away with early on, and they'll talk a big game, and they're a tough guy. Oh, I got the checkbook, but there's a principle called loss aversion. People are way more afraid of what they're going to lose than what they're going to gain. And when that loss aversion really starts to set in, and they're looking at that trial date in a month, and defense counsel is sending them a pretrial report, different story, more pressure. So I think plaintiffs' lawyers are maybe sometimes a little too scared, we're
not scared.
We're
not scared, dude.
I mean, they're the ones getting sued,
Yeah, right, right.
They're the ones with everything to lose, and the same goes for us too. But with our clients, we don't want to be too overconfident. We give them good advice,
of course.
But I think that mentality, I talked to too many plaintiffs' lawyers that seem too scared, too timid, too nervous about everything. And just remember, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're lawyers. We're trained to think a certain way, but how are 12 human beings going to receive this? I think lawyers have a tendency maybe to go too far, to go too deep down these legal rabbit holes and not think about, what's the jury going to think? What are regular people going to think? That's where the focus groups are helpful for us.
I love that. So I'm going to be honest, you're a super humble dude, but you go to your website, I'm seeing these astronomical, results. So let me ask you a question. How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay. So Nick is 32 years of age. Go to his website. I mean, some of these numbers are just eye-popping, right? So, I think that's why I wanted to have you on, is there's a lot to be learned. This is very doable stuff. But you have to have an iron stomach. And I think that's what you have, is you're not scared. And then when you do that, it compounds. You get less and less really concerned about what can go wrong as opposed to what can go right. So at 32, I think Nick's success is very instructive. So I would encourage the audience, be bold, be brave, take your shots, geek out. I talk about that all the time. Learn, be a forever learner. Nick, I know you're always reading books, right? You just suggested never eat alone. You're like a book nerd. And I say that in a very compliment. Because I am too, because you got to be because you're you're sharpening your knife every day. But, kudos to you for not just the success, but the humility. So I want to ask you a question, bring something up that really resonated with me. And it may sound like a joke to some people, but it's not. They'll see Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
You guys are all about, that. And I am too now. Can you talk to us about why that's important to you guys?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your comments earlier too, I credit a lot of those results to Devlin. I mean, he's the one really going in the trenches on these cases, and we collaborate actively on all these different claims that we're handling. But I think together we got the sauce.
Did he try those big ones alone?
He tried the big one with one of our other attorneys named Brennan, the $38 million verdict. So that was Devlin and Brennan, and then we're constantly just all collaborating on these cases, talking about what experts do we need to hire, how's this going to come across. What do we think about this theory? All that kind of stuff. Did
your attorney referrals spike when you started to ring the bell?
Yeah, we got a wrongful death case right after that outcome, and that was the largest verdict in North Carolina as well last year. So that's something that we're really proud of, and we're going to promote that to try to get more referrals from folks.
Of course.
So
people need help, and you're there to definitely provide it to them.
Yeah.
So but you're not just about dollars and cents. You're about culture and service.
Yes. So the
Chick-fil-A. What does that mean to you? Why is that important to you guys?
Of course. Yeah. So one of our core values is to be the Chick-fil-A of law firms. So my pitch is our industry has whether we we like it or not, has a stigma attached to it. We're ambulance chasers. We're just getting money off from people that are vulnerable. And that's what people think about what we do. Little do they know, if it weren't for plaintiffs' lawyers, the insurance companies we're the one line of defense, in my opinion, against them just having a free for all with people. But that is a stigma that we need to deal with. So I like in our industry how it's perceived to the fast food industry. You think about McDonald's, you think about Burger King, you think about Arby's, Hardee's. I'm going to go really low down the list. You don't really think about great service, great quality, really good food. It's just a crappy lunch. It's going to be cheap. It's just, for people in a rush, right? It's not good for you. Whereas Chick-fil-A is a cut above, right? So in this industry that's not known for all those things I mentioned. They're cut above all the rest. They deliver an excellent product with a smile. They're efficient. They're quick. They're consistent. They can have a double line around the building and they get you through faster than it would take other fast food restaurants with several cars, right?
Amazing.
And I don't think anyone can really, I'm sure you can, of course, but generally point to a bad experience at one of their restaurants. So they've mastered, a lot
not going to happen.
Yeah, they've mastered all these processes, and you can tell they're constantly tweaking how they run their lines and how they handle, the configuration of the drive-through. We've studied them, and that Chick-fil-A of Law Firms just automatically resonates with internal team, right? Like,
yeah,
you tell a new hire, hey, we're the Chick-fil-A Law Firms. They get it. Like, it clicks, So that's really been I think a great rallying cry for all of us. Just, culturally to get on board with that hospitality, service mindset.
Dad's proud, I'm sure, right? I mean, this is what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, geez, that's awesome. So I think that's good because it's so simple to understand. Everyone goes to Chick-fil-A. And so it's not about Chick-fil-A. It's about how you're making people feel, the service you're giving them. It's like, boy, that's an easy law firm to deal with. It's just doing it the right way to cut above. You talk about being the Chick-fil-A law firms. Other lawyers are like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
But those who get it, get it. And
if they don't get it, that's kind of like a sign, like a red flag,
Well, it's good. It's like, cool, because I do. And so I'll just pass you by then.
Yeah, you're not the right fit for us, if an employee thinks that's stupid, then...
Oh, yeah. Easy litmus.
Yeah.
So a colleague, I think you may appreciate this. Maybe you already thought about this. A colleague of mine mentioned that Chick-fil-A is a really good place to be looking for your next team member.
It is. Yeah.
Chicken sandwich. Have your eyes open when you're at your Chick-fil-A, when you're buying clothes at the mall, like wherever the hell you are, have your eyes peeled. I just wrote about this from the American Bar Association, my column this month. Have your eyes open out there because your next team member is right in front of you. You haven't perhaps been sensitive to that. I have not been. Maybe you have, Nick. I have not been. I think the general personal injury law firm owner is not sensitive enough. So let's keep our eyes and ears open. They're out there everywhere out there,
My dad would always say, keep a bench,
Yeah.
Keep your bench. You meet a really great waiter or something that you're really impressed by at a restaurant you go to frequently, let them know, hey, I own a firm in town. We're always looking for people. If, you're ever interested, here's my card.
Are you guys in office? Are you remote, hybrid?
We are in office, but we do have quite a few hybrid team members and remote team members.
Okay. How many lawyers?
We have 4 right now, and we're bringing one on soon, so we'll be up to 5.
So you don't handle cases right now. You're strictly business, correct?
I wish, man. I do handle cases right now. I'm getting out of it though. The
it's hard.
Yeah, it's just too much. I'm not able to give. I was handling quite a bit of pre-litigation cases. Early on, I was like the pre-lit guy, and then Devin was the lit guy, and I was running the business.
Yeah.
And that worked for a while, but it just isn't really working anymore. So we're going to bring in somebody to just be exclusively a pre-litigation lawyer. That's the plan right now. Hopefully, we'll have them started up in the next month or next couple months.
Are you still doing attorney lunches as much as you did at the beginning?
Yeah, I'm going to one today, man, at 12:15. Yeah, I'm going to lunch today with an attorney, criminal lawyer in town. And then tomorrow, too, we're doing another one. So we still, once a week, I mean, we're always going out to lunch. And we do like a happy hour once a quarter, an attorney happy hour, where we just send out a blast and have a tab and buy beers for everybody.
Oh, it's a win-win. I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Could you talk about community involvement? Because you guys definitely roll up your sleeves and get out there.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? And how do you go about, impacting the community around you?
Yeah. So first off, I think that you need to have a multivariate marketing strategy. So, you need to be, I think, once you're at that level and you have a significant budget, you need to be doing your digital efforts. You need to have some kind of traditional media strategy. And you need to have a community outreach strategy. So strategically, I thought we need to do community outreach. I enjoy the community outreach piece. I feel good. It makes me feel good to do it, of course. So that's an added benefit of it. Our strategy really has been around focusing on areas that we think are where our clients will be, right? So what we're looking at now are family events, education and sports. Our theme is we know their playbook. We were former insurance defense lawyers, and now we're on the other side. So go from defense to offense, that kind of deal. That's our whole message. So we sponsor like all the little league teams we can in town. We sponsor UNTW University's athletics program. That's a big piece of the community outreach. And then we show up to just local events. So like we just did the marathon, for example. And that's just
like ran it or just
no, we just had a booth at the end.
Okay.
And we handed out.
That's
we had little scrunchies for the girls for their hair and wristbands and stuff like that, and little track bags. I think it was like some kind of marathon riff on the theme. It was like, don't lose your case, or I don't know, some
right. That's cool
slogan. So we focus on that, and then we do like the concert series down at the beach where all the families go out every Thursday for the concerts. We do the blueberry festivals, the strawberry festivals in the South. So just community stuff like that, and then a few programs that have been great. We're doing a Teacher of the Year award, so we'll give I think a couple $1,000s to a teacher for her classroom to get all the stuff that she needs, and then we'll promote her on some billboards or him on some billboards in town, digital billboards, highlighting them and their contributions to the school system. So that's a great way for us to focus on the education piece. We do a scholarship for local kid. Everyone listening has a community college in their area that has some kind of paralegal program, probably. So we do a scholarship for the paralegal program. So we pay for one of their semesters every year.
Really?
That's gotten us into the paralegal program. And then Devlin goes and teaches a class at the paralegal school.
What does he teach?
He teaches about trial, like preparing for trial to the paralegals. And it's just one class a semester, but he's a guest speaker there. So that's great. So we wanted to get exposure to the paralegal program. We'll get referrals from that because they're, if you're a paralegal, your friends are going to ask you, oh, hey,
yes.
I got a car wreck, who do I call? And it's a good recruiting channel.
Oh, yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's great. There's quite a few other, we have an in-house marketing manager, Taylor, and she does a wonderful job just organizing all those events and executing on them. And I'd recommend to listeners, if you're going to do a community play, if you're going to go into the community stuff, you need to have a dedicated person in the office that is going to handle it. It sounds simple, but it's not. You got to have all your stuff planned. You need to have your tents. You need to have your volunteers. You need to deal with the coordinators. You got to schedule everything. It's a lot of work.
So you have one person full-time doing that?
Yeah. So she's busy. Yeah, she is. Yeah. She's doing a lot of other stuff too. She just hired an intern to help from the local college here to actually go to the events and stuff. So that's been kind of an evolution of her.
She needs help.
Yeah. Great way for her to start though.
Do you work closely with her, or does she sort of run into her own thing? Are you guys really close? Because you're the business, side of things. She's trying to develop business. I'm sure you guys, right, work hand in hand.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're touching base a couple times a week. I have a pretty laissez-faire management style, leadership style.
What's up?
So I'll direct, like, here's what we need to do, and then I'll let them just go do it. I'm not really looking over their shoulders or really following up a whole lot. Probably could a little bit more. My approach.
It's so hard.
Yeah, it's like, here's the plan. Let's go ahead and you execute on it, and then I can kind of measure it. We just worked on a visualization software so we can see all of our KPIs and stuff. So I can use that to measure. But I just got my head in so many different directions all the time. It's hard.
I know. 100%.
Really
KPIs. You mentioned that KPIs, like, people have to get their KPIs dialed down because that's not about the person. It's not like you're being the bad guy. It's like, bad guy's the number. Just like, look at the number. Well, this is the number we have to hit, right? I think it's really important. People have a number in mind. So, I'm a little bit older, and I had social media much later in my career. You're younger. I mean, not far from like a digital native. I don't know if that's like a real term or whatever. So to what extent, 32, to what extent you guys leveraging social, right? Heavily, not so much. Like, what do you guys,
It's a piece of piece of the that multivariate environment, I think social media is just a great way to stay top of mind with your clients and with your kind of like your circle, right? So they just go on their computer or their phone and they see your content every now and then. It just keeps you top of mind. Like they might have gotten up that morning, look at their phone, saw one of our videos or some prior result we had that we're sharing on social media. Yeah. And then later that day, their colleague says, hey, I was just in a wreck yesterday. And then they're like, oh, you should call Horton Mendez. You know, if they didn't see that, maybe they wouldn't have told their friend about us, you know, because they just wouldn't have been thinking about us. So I'm a big believer in that. Like, you know, you just, and I like social as a way to share. There's all kinds of things I like about it. I like to use it to showcase our employees because I think our employees really enjoy the social media and they like being, I think, recognized on social media because, you know, they can share that with their family and with their network. So I think that's something that is valuable internally. It's a great way. I think you got to be strategic about like your content on different channels. Like we view Facebook as much more like family.
Yeah.
So we're going to put like more family oriented things on Facebook. And then obviously LinkedIn is more professional. So we'll showcase, you know, Devlin's big verdict he got on LinkedIn or our new office location we're opening on LinkedIn. And then Instagram is a little bit more like artistic and young. So maybe that's where we'll put our reels and our like more fun, you know, funny, humorous content, or we do like a local business spotlight where we go and we showcase a local business. That plays really well on Instagram. Doesn't really play that great on LinkedIn, you know?
Right. Different ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that'd be my advice to folks looking at social.
So many ways to cut it up. You know,
yeah.
So you guys, you know, a lot of fast growth. They say every time you double, things break. So I'm sure you guys have doubled, you know, quite a bit since the inception. Looking back, is there something you wish you had a mulligan? You could do it over. You're just like, that was kind of like, maybe that was not the best decision at that time. Anything you could share that maybe could help the audience who's plotting, scheming their firm, how they're going to break out and start their own firm potentially?
That's a great question. I think don't be afraid to experiment with things, but you know, maybe I been a little too fast to jump into some things. Without
I'm guilty. I'm 100%
without
guilty.
really kind of thinking it all through.
That's me every day.
I mean, that's one thing. I think folks like you and I, and probably a lot of listeners are listening to this because they have a growth mindset.
Oh yeah.
And they want to, you know, they really want to grow. But if you're that kind of person, I think it would be wise. And I've done this recently, but I wish I would have done it a little sooner. Is when you're at the chance where you can do it, bring in somebody that is the total opposite of you.
Oh yeah.
Who's going to hold you in check.
Compliment you.
Yeah, compliment you, and just be self-aware enough to know that you need that. And then I think lastly, be careful, you know, with your people. Always make sure you got the right person in the right seat. And you might really love somebody and they're really, really great, but it might not be the right role for them if you need to move them into something else.
Right.
So be very, very careful when you promote anybody or elevate anybody or change their role in any way, and make sure that you're setting them up to succeed and you're not just wanting them to succeed in a certain type of role. That they're
had promotions backfire.
Yeah, be very careful with
promotions.
Those. Yeah. And you know, just be careful what you tell your people, you know, about their career paths and things. You know, let it play out for a bit. I don't think there's ever anything wrong with learning to punt sometimes.
No, I agree. And tied to that, you know, my greatest weakness, I'm really impatient. Like I want it done like 2 weeks ago. People around me are like, dude, chill. Let this thing, you know.
Yeah, let it play out.
We just set sail on that boat. Let's see what it brings back before we put other boats in the ocean. Yeah. So I really encourage the audience, you got to be patient. Like everyone, like you just said, is a growth mindset. A lot of people on this call are sort of fire into their butt, you know, getting after it. I get that. That would be my mistake among a million others. Principally, though, my main was not being patient enough. And that still is my issue. So work on that. So just be mindful of like who you are, right? And as Nick said, you know, just like getting people around you to compliment you. You don't want like 2 Nick Mendez. You don't want 2 Chris Earleys.
Not just polar.
You. Yeah, polar opposite, but core value alignment, unlock, like incredibly unlocked.
Yeah.
That's when I think you guys have figured that out. So looking, to the future, there's still, a lot ahead of you. Like, where do you want to, have you thought 10 years out? Or you just sort of 5 years out, or you're just sort of like playing the game today and,
Yeah.
getting up to speed with everything in terms
We've
of
said, so we've been on EOS. We self-implemented it. Traction. Some people may be familiar with it that way.
Yeah.
And we're actually next week going to work with an implementer to fully implement it
Fantastic.
in our firm. So we've been actually thinking about this a lot lately in preparation for that session. And we would like to obviously expand our geographic presence throughout our state and then expand into other states would be the goal. I guess you could say that the BHAG would be, be in 30 of the 50 states.
Wonderful.
Certainly all the states in our region. And then to have a group of elite high-level trial attorneys, like 5 to 10 of them, that are traveling around trying these mega cases throughout the country. That would be
cool.
The vision, right? Like the dream.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So have a docket, each of our ACE, elite trial attorneys has 20 big major claims, throughout the country that they're working on. I think Morgan and Morgan, they call it like their hit squad or something, I've heard. Just have this badass hit squad flying around the country slaying dragons.
You know what I like about that? You were getting like specific.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know, Chris, we want to grow. You're like, actually this and then that. And that's like how you map it out. Cause it might sound weird. You're feeding your subconscious. You're gonna manifest this stuff.
Absolutely, man.
But like when you're painting that picture with like 20 and 5, like that's really specific stuff that I think I mean, that's great. You gave me more than I bargained for. I was just wondering like what the future looks like, but you're like getting like specific, and that's what people need to do is like really drill down. What does the future look like?
And we don't want to make like a mill environment, we just, we want to be, we want to be known as a trial law firm that's handling, we'll take smaller cases, of course. Like we want to help everyone we can. But
you guys want to focus.
We want to be focused on those bigger claims.
Of course. No, that's where you can make the biggest impact. As you wrap up, as I said, I know you're a big book guy. Is there one book in particular that has had the most impact on you, either personally, professionally, or both?
Yeah, I love this question. I always end up mentioning a book that I've read kind of recently.
Yeah,
there's probably one that was more influential, but it's kind of like in the back of my brain.
Yep, I know.
In a book that I've really been high on has been a book called Growing Pains.
Oh, never heard of it. Okay.
It's like a textbook, really. It's kind of dense, but it reader through. It's a wonderful book. It's academic, but it takes the readers through what they call the 4 stages of growth in any business. The first stage being like the entrepreneur coming up with the idea and everything's up in their head, and they're the kind of ones doing everything. And then eventually you evolve to where you need to have other people that work for you, and you need to have, systems in place, and then you need to have systems to train those people to train other people, and then you evolve. The final stage is like the publicly traded company that has a fully built out business with all their different C-suite level people, yada, yada, yada. So, and it breaks it down by like, your manufacturing businesses, your service businesses, like, they're going to have different phases. Obviously we're a service business, but that is a great book.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like the Vern Harnishes and the Gino Wickmans and stuff, like they all read that book. It's an old book.
I'm going to check it out.
Because it blends in a lot of like the stuff. 5 Steps Ahead too. I read that one. That was pretty good. And it actually is where I learned about the book I just mentioned. And then trying to think recently, I'm gonna start reading this book called The Toyota Way. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard amazing things. Toyota's known for like an amazing process that they have on their manufacturing lines, and like this idea of a continuous improvement.
Kaizen,
all that, like Japanese
love
philosophy. The Japanese are like the kings of quality.
You can learn a lot.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read that one next. I would encourage readers to take things or listeners to take things, read books from outside of the industry. Like don't just read law related business books. I love John Morgan's book, You Can't Teach Hungry. That was a great book.
Same.
I need to reread
Can't
that
Teach
one.
Vision is
Can't
maybe
Teach
even
Vision,
better.
yeah, that's a
No
good
one
one.
really talks about that one, but he recommended that to me. He said, you got to read Vision. I did. It's like next level.
Yeah, I really admire him in that book. That's great. I love reading biographies.
People have been over, they're all successful people, been over a lot of challenge, gritty people.
I just read the John D. Rockefeller biography. That was really cool.
Really?
That was a great book.
Very cool.
And I'm reading Teddy Roosevelt's right now. And he was just like an amazing figure. But I think studying the biographies, you can take so much away.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. You're really, getting into this stuff. I appreciate you. I think I've been very clear, very upfront with you. I love what you're doing. I admire.
Likewise.
At 32, man, this is insane. Like,
yeah,
I love it.
I'm
a cheerleader from the sideline. Want nothing but the best for you guys. I love the duo mentality. You guys, keep running it, because you guys are doing it the right way. So there's so many tips. I told you, audience, there'd be plenty of writer downers. And once again, there were. So Nick, I appreciate. How can people get in touch with you?
They can reach out to me via email. My email is just nick@hortonmendez.com. That's probably the best way. You can call my office and ask for me. But email is probably the best way to get me.
Awesome. All right, keep doing your thing. Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. It was great. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. That's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Answering Legal YouTube channel.